Hello, thank you for inviting me to join you today. My name is Beth Hawkins and I'm the Academy Manager for the Science Museum Group. Today, I'm going to share the Science Museum Group's journey working to embed the academic research around Science Capital across our organisation, including why we're taking this approach, how we're applying the research and what this looks like in practice. To set the scene, the Science Museum Group is the UK's National Museum of Science and Industry, which is made up of 5 museums across the UK. Our museums explore the past, present and future of science through our collections and exhibitions, hands-on experiences and contemporary science offer, both in and beyond our sites. As an organisation, our mission is to inspire futures, and we're committed to playing our part in enabling more people to participate in science and helping everyone to access the social and economic benefits that it brings. We recognise that taking a science capital approach can help us to achieve this, and so we have made this one of our key strategic priorities. And whilst we know not everyone needs to study science or take part in science-related activities, everyone should feel able to do so. You may have seen this graph before, which shows the levels of science capital or science attitudes here in the UK. It shows how 5% have high science capital, meaning that they're actively involved and really interested in science. 68% have medium science capital, meaning that they're interested but don't make much effort to get involved, which leaves 27% who have low science capital and who really don't feel that science is for them. This data was collected from young people living close to our museums, and it likely reflects their family science capital as well. And it was this data that made us think about who we are reaching through our museums and our offer. So looking at visitors to our museums, we found that most of them have high science capital. We also get quite a few people with medium science capital, but there are a lot of people who are missing and who are not coming. People with lower science capital rarely visit our museums because they feel excluded by science and from visiting places like ours. This also highlights why school visits to our museums are really important, as there are many children who will never visit us with their families. The research into science capital gives insight into what influences and shapes people's attitudes towards science, how it's more than just what you know about science. It also recognises the significance of how you think about it, what science-related activities that you do, and who you know in shaping your identity and confidence with science and maths. All of us have different amounts of science capital, and it's not fixed and it can change across a lifetime. And every experience that you have can influence your relationship with science, both positively and negatively. Social justice and equity are integral to the concept of science capital, enabling and empowering everyone to access the opportunities and wonders of science. Being open for all is one of the Science Museum Group's 5 core values, and the science capital research helps to recognise people's differences and helps us to ensure that they get the support that they need. We also recognise that some of the approaches that we use in our museums can favour those who are already culturally engaged and will exclude people who face inequalities in wider society. So what is the role that museums and science centres can play in improving people's attitudes towards science and to build their science capital? People experience and learn about science in many different places, at school, at home, and in their everyday life. Informal learning experiences like ours play a key part in the science learning landscape by supporting and encouraging audiences to extend their learning within and beyond our spaces. They are a trusted source of information, and they help to broaden perceptions around what science is. They also have the potential to inspire people of all ages and backgrounds with the opportunities and wonders of science and introduce them to the joy of discovery. Every aspect of a visit or an experience is an opportunity to shape someone's feelings and attitudes towards science And everyone across the whole organisation has their own strength and a role that they can play. This diagram represents an organisational model for delivering engaging, inspiring and memorable experiences. And every level here needs to be addressed if we are to help more people to feel welcome and at home in our museums and to grow their science capital. The first level is physical and basic needs. These are the foundations of any experience, all the essential things that need to be in place before anything else can happen. They're the things that ensure that people feel comfortable and safe and can access our experiences. This includes our spaces being clean, having enough seating, that the offer is accessible to everyone, exhibits that work, and that wait times are not too long. The next level is emotional, social needs. And this is about making sure that everyone feels welcome and that they belong in our spaces. This includes a warm welcome, helpful staff, marketing that makes everyone feel invited, a reasonably priced cafe, and that they're experience that are on offer for my community. The next level is the engagement or learning needs. And this is where a lot of work tends to be focused. But it's worth remembering that if the other needs are not met, people will find it hard to engage at this level. Here, we need to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to contribute and to get involved in our experiences. When all these needs are met, then we can achieve our outcome to grow science capital. And this will be a feeling that our museums or our centres are places for them, and then when people feel inspired to do more or to find out more. We use a quote in our training that people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget the way that you made them feel. And how people feel in our museums is what we're working to achieve. We are supporting our staff to deliver this in lots of different ways. This is an overview of the training and materials we've put in place to support them. The main thing that we're supporting our staff to do is to reflect on their everyday work, considering the needs of a broader range of people and giving them permission to experiment to see what works, what doesn't work, and to go from there. For our staff, the science capital approach is empowering and it enables them to maximise the impact of their work. The most central and important tool that the Science Group have developed is a set of reflection points. These are action-focused considerations which bring together good practice around science and cultural engagement. And they're used to help us to reflect on our everyday interactions and when creating new experiences, including exhibitions, shows, and workshops. These are quite simple considerations, but they are all important, and it's surprising how often we forget to include them. I won't go through them all now, but they include things like how can we help people to feel more confident and get involved in our experiences, helping people to recognise that they have and they use science skills, encouraging people to talk about science, extending our experience with activities for people to do at home or at school, using relevant and everyday examples to help explain the science and put it into context, and giving positive reinforcement, helping people to feel good about science. And I'll share a few examples of changes that we have made using these reflection points. My first example is from Wonderlab, our flagship hands-on gallery, which reveals the beauty of the science and maths that shapes our everyday lives. About 5 years ago, we redeveloped this gallery, which gave us the opportunity to think and do things differently, taking a science capital approach. And one of the areas that we worked on was the exhibit labels. This is an exhibit in the gallery which is called Icy Bodies. It uses dry ice, which as it sublimes, it creates the most beautiful patterns and movement. The picture on the right shows the old label, which explains and describes a lot about the detail of the science, but not much else. And so using the reflection points, this label was given an update. So this is what it looks like now. If you remember the reflection points, this considers how to help people to feel more confident using the exhibit, and it now includes a picture to show you how to interact with it. It still includes content, but it now also includes some questions to help get people talking. It also, if you can see it in the bottom right corner, is an example of an everyday example of whether science is used in everyday life. Use an example that everyone should be able to identify with. In this case, it shows how dry ice is used in TV and film special effects. And even choosing the best example to use here was also a Science Capital reflection. The original example was that dry ice is used in the theatre, but we reflected that not everyone will have been to the theatre or experienced that kind of experience. So the example of film and TV would be more relevant to more people. Another example is the redevelopment of our activities. This is one of the ways that we link and connect with families and schools across the learning landscape. These older activities, like the exhibit labels, were informative and they got the job done. But we wanted to help more people to make science connections. One of the big changes that we made was to make these activities suitable for families to use as well as for schools, helping to bring more science into the home. Using the reflection points, we added information to help adults, either teachers or parents, to feel more confident with the science and to run the activity. We've also added information about the skills that are used in the activity. Again, everyday examples of where the science is used, and it prompts and encourages people to talk. This next example considers how not everyone feels that science is for them, but they may identify with being more creative. So to help build people's confidence and broaden perceptions of who uses science in their life, we have thought about how we can present science in unexpected, more creative and artistic ways to help people to explore science themes and topics in a way that they feel more comfortable with. This picture is a wonderful 3.5-meter sculpture by the artist Mark Quinn, which greets visitors to the Science Museum's new medicine galleries. It's called The Self-Conscious Gene, and it explores the deep desire held by humans to understand their bodies and their personal histories. My final example is how we're bringing more people stories into our exhibitions and public programs. Not just about the famous scientists, but the real people who are using science in their work today. This picture is from an exhibition that was about antibiotic resistance and superbugs, and it featured a range of people for whom this is a key part of their job. We also run a lot of events in the museum with people who use science in their work, and this can really help visitors to see people who do science are often people just like them and have similar interests that they do. We always train scientists and volunteers to work with the public so that they feel confident to share and talk about their work and work with audiences in an inspiring and engaging way. So to finish up, I wanted to address one of the most common questions that we get asked, which is how to measure success. Success of taking this Science Capital approach can come in a variety of forms and across a number of different scales, from working with new ways to recruit and grow fresh talent to your organisation, to forming a relationship with a new visitor community. This theory of change shows that if we apply a Science Capital approach, this will lead to greater engagement or attitudes to science, which will grow their Science Capital. We can observe and measure engagement and attitudes, and it's worth considering what you would like to see as an output for your centre. For us, we wanted to see more diversity in our visitors and for more people to see the value of science through the work that we do. One of the ways that we're capturing this information is using our science engagement measure. This is not the only evaluation tool and approach that we use, but it's probably the widest reaching. These questions are used in our exit surveys as people leave our museums. They are top-level questions, and they don't give a huge amount of in-depth information, but they do help us to get an understanding of how successful our experiences have been. So that brings me to the end of my talk. And I'd like to leave you by saying how all of you and all of your organisations do amazing things and have excellent opportunities to reach and connect with different people. Whether you are a museum leader, you create exhibitions, you work with schools, or you work at a festival, you will each have your own personal superpower to make a difference and to help more people to feel that science and STEM is something that they can be part of. Thank you all so much for listening. Goodbye.